Hello everyone, my name is Lowko and welcome back to a professional match of StarCraft 2. Now what I've got for you today is a very long match of Terran versus Protoss. Now, I wasn't entirely sure what I was gonna cast today, so I opened up my replays folder, the one that contains all of the pro replays that were played over the last couple of weeks, and for some reason, this game right here on Eternal Empire did not catch my eye before. It's a very long game, it's not a best of 3, not a best of 5, it's just gonna be this single match right here on Eternal Empire, and well, usually, right, TVPs, I mean, they end pretty quickly. I would say like a long game of Terran versus Protoss is like, maybe like 14, 15, 16, 17-ish minutes long. This game is significantly longer than that. I have no idea what to expect, but it's been a while since I've seen a Terran versus Protoss go the distance, so I guess we'll find out together. Now, spawning here, in the bottom left-hand corner of the map, playing with the red Protoss probes from Germany, we're looking inside of the main base of Demauer, and his nickname is ShoWTimE. Although I guess his actual name is Tobias, if I'm not mistaken. That his nickname is ShoWTimE, and then the nickname of his nickname is Demauer. Sein Name is Demauer. My German is amazing, I know. Anyways, excuse my pronunciation. This guy, I mean, he plays extremely defensively. He's a very, very strong Protoss player. He's been around for many, many years. On LowkoTV, currently, he's considered to be the number 16 in the world, and he's always been very solid, very straightforward with his approach. And if you want to play like a defensive style in Protoss versus Terran, I mean, I highly recommend you go ahead and check out some of his games, although you gotta be on point. You can't really make any mistakes, because everything he does is exceptionally crisp. A little bit of a skirmish right here on the low ground, on the Terran side of things, but the probe does go away eventually. Playing here with the blue SCVs from France, we're looking inside of the main base of Team Liquid's Clem. Now, I'm not gonna lie, I am quickly becoming a huge Clem fanboy. I've casted a couple of his games over the last few months. This guy is getting ridiculously good. Now, in case you're unfamiliar, I've said this a dozen times already. He's very young, he just turned 18 years old, and as of me making this video, he's considered to be the rank 7 on the planet. Now, obviously, you gotta take LowkoTV always with a grain of salt, because the thing is, Clem has never won a premier tournament before, but he certainly is getting really, really good, and at least statistically speaking right now, he's considered to be the 3rd highest ranked non-Korean pro gamer behind Serral and Raynor, which is very impressive. So we'll see what this man becomes in the future. But I mean, if they go through with the next balance patch as well, I've got a feeling that Clem is only gonna get better, man. This guy is getting really, really strong. Like, I know I've hyped him up for a long time, and I know I've been saying that he's been getting really good, but recently he's been showing some signs that's like, you know, only the top tier Terran players. I've only seen like 2 Terran players really make those kinds of moves. Specifically, like, I've seen Maru make those kind of moves, and I've seen Bjorn make those kind of moves when it comes to the micro and the control of his units. He is really, really confident in his control, especially against like Banelings when he's playing with Marines on creep. It's very difficult at that point, and and obviously this is not going to happen in this TVP, but it's very difficult at that point to control your units properly and to decide when you need to pick up, and if you can micro backwards, or if you can just stand your ground and target fire down the Banelings. You have to be so confident, and Clem is one of the very few that started really showcasing that over the last couple of weeks. So we'll see. We'll see what he ends up doing in this game here, but I'm personally already kind of leaning towards him because he's getting so strong over the last couple of months. Alright, anyways, I'm excited though to see what like the pro scene will look like once we're going to be able to see offline tournaments again. Obviously, with the whole Corona situation right now going around the world, we haven't seen any offline tournaments ever since IEM Katowice. And we're not going to be seeing any in the near future either, other than, I guess, like the GSL Codes, but that's basically a Korean-only tournament, or you have to live in Korea at the very least if you want to participate in that. Or I guess you could technically fly in for it, but that's highly, highly inconvenient. So I guess you can't fly in right now either, huh? Anyways, you get what I'm trying to say. Like, there's not really any offline tournaments that are being played currently, so pretty much all of the events are at the moment offline. Very standard opener right here from both players, though. About a 4-minute third base right here for the Protoss. He decided to go for a Stargate, so he's going to be able to get those Phoenixes out here. He's already got double Oracle. They're currently flying across the map. ShoWTimE is going to need some more defense over here in the natural, but look at that. The timing on these Stalkers, very, very crisp. He should be able to deal with that drop just fine, while also simultaneously dealing a little bit of damage. Reaper just poked into the third base to try and figure out exactly what's going on. Phoenix, though, does manage to get on over towards where that Medivac is located. Hello, hello. Oh, it's just outside of vision range. I was going to say, not entirely sure why he's not trying to hit it. Oh, there you go. ShoWTimE did indeed end up finding this Medivac, and that's actually a very nice catch. So getting 5 worker kills here, keeping everything alive, denying that drop. Nicely done. Although, I guess the Phoenix will give its life right here for that little bit of control. One Oracle does fall here eventually with the Raven throwing down the auto turret, but that's still 7 workers to 0. Oftentimes, like, if we see a game of TVP end early, it's because of, like, the Protoss player accidentally having, like, 2 Widow Mines instead of his mineral line. Super, super common, even at the pro level. I mean, obviously, we shouldn't be seeing it, but it happens. Like, the Widow Mines come in at very odd timings and very odd angles. While, you know, obviously, from the natural... right here, like from the north of the natural into the mineral line is very, very common. Sometimes we see the Medivacs literally flying through the center of the map straight into the main base. And, you know, even though that angle is so easy on paper to defend, oftentimes realistically speaking, it's very difficult to actually catch those kinds of drops if you're not paying very, very close attention. Anyways, so usually this matchup, it's all about the third base. So we see the third command center coming up right now quite a bit later than the third nexus. The question is ShoWTimE going to be able to hold on right here against that push? He doesn't have a whole lot. He's got a couple of stalkers right now over here, and then a sentry and a few zealots. And this is a rather big Terran army, right? So you got to try and defend this. How many Phoenixes are there? There's just 1 Phoenix, so you can't really lift up all too much either. A couple more zealots do get warped in. Widow Mines joining in the fray as well. A couple of SCVs are pulled off the mineral line. I love that. Okay. So at this point, basically what ShoWTimE is trying to do is just trying to slow this down, right? Because the more he slows this down, the more that his economy advantage will kick in, so the more stuff he can produce. Charge is going to finish up here. That will help out a lot. It's going to make this quite a bit easier. But here's those 2 SCVs now working on a couple of bunkers. Plus, we do see those Widow Mines right over here as well. Now, he's going to charge forward. Great auto turret there as well, distracting a couple of these zealots, forcing them to charge forward. But still, despite all of that, I mean, it was a nice move. Really good damage done here by the Protoss player. He manages to force this Terran army away just fine. Now, in the meantime... Oh, okay. All right, I now understand why this game is so very long. Rather than a bio follow-up, we see now a mech follow-up here for the Terran player. This is very uncommon. We've seen this a couple of times in the past. I remember Maru was playing this like end of last year at some point, and then a couple of other players also started doing it. But mech follow-ups, so basically like a mechanical army follow-up. This is going to be very siege tank, probably like Thor siege tank, Banshee, you know, very, very heavy in those kinds of units. It's not common. It's not something we usually see, especially not from players that are very, very good at controlling those bio units like I was talking about earlier. Now, what I love about this especially, though, is that usually when we see mech, it's going to be straight into mech. You know, it's like a 1-1-1, then added factories, and then eventually, you know, the Protoss player will figure it out. I love the fact that Clem decided to go for that siege tank marine push earlier, which at the very least most players would probably assume gets followed up at that point with more marines, right? Marine Marauder Medivac, very, very common with some siege tank support as well. ShoWTimE at this point doesn't really know exactly what it is that he's going up against. He has not seen the additional factory production. He hasn't seen the armories here either in the corner right here of the main base. 4th base already coming up, which is awesome though for ShoWTimE. He already is going what seems to be like Archon Immortal. Or actually Archon Zealot base right now with some Storms as well. Storm is not going to be that useful against Terran Mech. Okay, now he scouts it though. There you go. You're not supposed to see Thors and then multiple Banshees and all that at this point in the game. That's 3 Banshees at this moment. Is he going to pull back? Is he going to still go? Oh, he still is going to go? Alright, well Blink is finishing up. Sonic Storm is finishing up too. He could technically deal some damage, right? So eventually pushing into Terran Mech, super hard. If there's like a line of siege tanks, you're not going to be able to break that. Right now, there's really not that many yet. That's only 3 tanks, actually. Okay, here comes the Protoss army. It's walking forward. He does eventually pull the trigger right here. Storms do go down on the leftover Marines, and then also those Hellbats from earlier. The Banshees do take quite a bit of damage as well. They eventually do get stormed down too. Nice push here by ShoWTimE, but he's losing the majority of his army at this point. That one Viking trying to hunt down here these Archons, or that, what's it called? The War Prism here as well. Wow, he's actually going to continue onwards. The Thor, there you go. The Thor does gun it out of the sky though, and well, it looks like the Thor falls as well, and then also that Banshee. Eventually, ShoWTimE is going to be forced to turn back around. Alright, so immediately we see the switch over into Archons and Immortals. So Archon Immortal Zealot is sort of the bread and butter of Protoss in most situations, but because of the fact that like Immortals deal bonus damage against armored, and pretty much all the mech units are armored, they're going to be especially good right here against those siege tanks. Now, I've played against Terran Mech a bunch of times when playing Protoss myself. I've also played some Terran Mech actually myself versus Protoss. I can never make it work against Protoss. It always seems to go terribly for me. The Bio army always seems a little bit easier to control. However, when you're playing Protoss and the Terran player manages to, like, for example, siege up their tanks right outside of your base and you don't notice it, it's extremely difficult to break. So most of the time it seems to come down to where those siege tanks siege up and if you can stop them and intercept them while they are moving across the map. Now because of that, I don't actually think Clem is really going to move across the map here. I mean, ShoWTimE obviously a much better Protoss player than me. I can imagine that, well, this is nice actually. Hellbat drop coming up, but there's already a bunch of those already a bunch of those photon cannons. Yeah, this is not really going to be able to do that much. And, well, eventually this bad boy also will go down. Yeah, I don't really think that Clem is feeling brave enough to move across the map with these kinds of armies until he's essentially maxed out anyway. Once again, though, the Protoss army moves forward. He still does have a couple of those Stormy boys. We see the splits on the Thors. That is weird, huh? Normally, we see splits right here on... This is not enough Protoss, though. No, not even close. Normally, we see splits on... on Terran Bio against Storm. Not so much Thors splitting against Storm, but... guess it worked out here for Clem eventually anyway. Now, you don't have Medivacs to heal up those Thors, but you can just simply patch them up with the SCVs. This does cost you some money, does cost some resources, but obviously way better than just losing the units. Alrighty. So I like this. This is cool. ShoWTimE apparently is continuously attacking right now, though. He does not really want these bases to be established. One way you can beat this, obviously, is by preventing them from mining more than 3 bases. And so far, that's going really quite nicely. I mean, ShoWTimE has already set up right now his 5th base just fine. No real counter pressure there. Command center actually burning right now, too. But yeah, at this point, I think the Terran army might very well be a little bit too big. Actually, a bunch of SCVs just now went down as well. I think those may have been the ones that were repairing over here. Not entirely sure. Okay, so the pushback was indeed halted just fine. A couple of Hellions really not achieving all too much. I mean, I love the fact that there's photon cannons pretty much everywhere. Also, double Robo right now producing mostly those robotics units. He's going to be able to get himself a whole bunch of Immortals out if he continues this right now as well. But there eventually do we see the Planetary Fortress finish. And this is really important. Knowing that the Planetary Fortress is done gives Clem like a really beautiful anchor to constantly sit in, right? Like he can just simply defend this much easier right now, as he can obviously repair this as well. Now a couple of the Thors though, a little far forward. Siege tank also unsieged. This is so much Terran though. Can you break this? The Immortals are gunning down as much here as they can. A little bit of mistargeting there. I think you don't want them hitting the Hellions. Still though, Zealots do charge forward. A lot of the Thors go down, but yeah, that Planetary Fortress is now being repaired up, and that usually seems to be the key here. Can you save that? Not gonna happen, no. Yeah, once again, Protoss gets pushed back, and Clem holds on towards that 4th command center relatively easily. He's already going up to +3/+3 right now. Siege tanks have to take a really weird route to get out of the main base, but eventually he's gonna be able to do that. That bad boy went all the way around. Yeah, this is looking quite good right now for Clem, right? So I like this. The thing, though, that I don't so much like about this is how passive it is. So, technically speaking, if you get into a good siege up, yeah, you're gonna be in a beautiful scenario if the Protoss lets you do that. However, most of the time, I mean, Protoss isn't really gonna allow you to do that, and you're not gonna be able to move out very easily until you're basically maxed out. I wonder what prompted Clem to start playing mech here. I like it, though, don't get me wrong, but I'm pretty sure at this point it's considered inferior to Terran Bio. Well, you know, although I guess if Clem is playing it, I mean, he must feel confident that it's actually good, right? Obviously, there's also an argument to be made that you don't necessarily want to play like the optimal strategy all the time. Because even if it's optimal, right? Your opponent obviously has a lot more practice against that Bio army as well. And how comfortable do you think ShoWTimE is playing against Terran Mech? I don't really know exactly how often he sees this kind of unit composition, but I can imagine he sees this maybe a couple times a month. Really not that often. Alright, now I love this. ShoWTimE decided to add in Disruptors. So Purification Nova, absolutely amazing. Siege tanks do outrange those Disruptors, but you can obviously make use of them by, for example, killing those Widow Mines. Although, ooh, that one still went off anyway. You can also kill the Thors really nicely. Zealots in the meantime, and an Archon apparently also tried to break through this location right over here. One Siege tank already taking a little bit of damage, and Purification Nova number 2 does finish it off as well. Now these Novas, yeah, they deal so much damage. I love that. Beautiful move right there by ShoWTimE. He's trying to see if he can potentially break that, but the Thor count is absolutely insane. Liberator in the meantime, inside of the natural of the Protoss player as well, dealing a whole bunch of damage. Purification Nova does have a relatively long cooldown, so he can't just, you know, stay his, or stay at that location of the map for all too long either, but this is a nice bit of damage right now that ShoWTimE is doing. He managed to clean up a bunch of those Terran units, and I think preventing it from getting maxed out and preventing it from getting a 5th base is most important. Once again, though, Clem holds on. He loses a bunch of units, yes, but he does now establish that 5th command center. And just getting another base up here basically gives even more longevity to this army. Because I think once it maxes out, it's going to be a very, very tough army to beat with just straight up Protoss units. So this kind of feels like a Terran Mech versus like Zerg army right now, right? Where the Protoss is just out expending Terran heavily, like the Zerg would do. And then I guess they want to deal with the Terran army eventually by maxing out multiple times. Purification Nova should be running forward here again very soon. There they go. They're hunting for those Thors. Nice little bit of damage. Apparently it takes 3 of those Novas to clean up a bunch of those Thors. Did not know that. Oh my god, no. The Planetary Fortress, I think it will live. Yeah, I think it will live. And once again, I mean, 7 SCVs is nice and all that, right? But once again, the base stays alive. And this anchor here for Clem is absolutely massive. Okay. ShoWTimE continuously trying to target this down here. In the meantime, though, a couple of Hellions now moving towards the bottom right-hand corner as well, though. Ooh, those Novas were amazing. Still, these Hellions, yeah, they can certainly start hurting this mineral line quite a bit. Here's the next plan, though, for Clem, right? He's gone for a lot of Thors, a lot of Hellions, and a lot of siege tanks up to this point. The next weapon that he's adding to his arsenal is Liberators. And Liberators... Protoss can kind of deal with them by going for Stalkers, but ideally you need Tempest. And I think Tempest are going to be one of the best units here to go for anyway. Like, going for flying units, obviously a great idea. The thing is, though, ever since the patch of last November, Thors have a very long anti-air range. So I don't really even know how the dynamic between, like, Tempest and Thors work out. I mean, Thors have, if I'm not mistaken, 10 anti-air range in their high impact mode. So the mode that this Thor right here is in, where it deals single target damage. So that's going to be pretty great against Tempest, because I think Tempest have something very similar. Maybe like 11 or 12. I'm not entirely sure on the exact numbers, but long story short, Thor's good unit. It's a very long story, very, very short. Man, he's actually been adding on quite a lot of damage here. Yeah, look at that. The probe count right now, I mean, 34 probes have gone down throughout this game. Not bad at all, with just a bunch of Hellions. Alright, so... both players pretty much maxed out right here when it comes to upgrades. So we don't see the shield upgrades just yet, but I'm sure he's going to be adding those on. There we go. And there's also a Stargate coming up, plus a fleet beacon. All right. So ShoWTimE is indeed going to make that SkyToss transition. The other problem with transitioning towards SkyToss is that you need a lot of money in order to do so. So you need at least, I would say, like this amount of base. Well, this is maybe a little bit high, but you need at least like 5 bases or so before you can comfortably make that switch. And I think he's going to do exactly that here in just a little bit. Obviously, Clem can do the same though, right? He can still add on a ton of Vikings as well if he needs to. He's already started upgrading his flyer weapons right now too, adding on additional starports and now also that fusion core. So is he going to make a switch towards mass battlecruiser here as well? That would be cool, man. I think it's just going to be for the Liberator ranged upgrade right now, which is also at Fusion Core Tech, but I love this. This really does remind me of Terran Mech versus Zerg. It's really Protoss heavily outproducing here for quite some time, but not being able to get the most efficient traits here. Okay, Archons and Immortals, though, get into a pretty good spot. They decide to back off with the siege tank sieging up. Don't know if that was necessarily the best move. I feel like he could have actually continued there with that amount of Immortals here. 4 Immortals gunning down these stores will make them go down very, very quickly. I think ShoWTimE is just trying to make sure that this siege, or that the planetary fortress over here is denied, because this is once again going to be a planetary. This is going to come down to the final bases, I think, if this continues onwards right now. I mean, we know that the game is very long, right? So I've got a feeling that this, this may very well come down to, like, the final bases. Pretty sick. Now, while that Terran army is being dragged all the way towards the top left-hand corner, nice move there by ShoWTimE, he's running by with a couple of Zealots and then also a few of these Stalkers, and that's awesome. Really, really like that move. Still, though, a couple siege tanks here on the high ground. They have been continuously dishing out the damage. I was wondering earlier if maybe Clem should have pulled that siege tank here towards the low ground instead, but it's now got 12 kills here. And it's been preventing a lot of these run-bys for quite some time. Nicely done right there by the Frenchman. Additional... Wow, wait, how many does he have? He's gonna go up to 4. Okay, I thought he already had 3. So he's gonna go up to 4 of those Stargates right here. I think that he's gonna make a big sky switch here in just a little bit. Although he's gotta be careful, though. You can't just give up this army this aggressively. That was a big move forward. Love the fact as well that Clem is now using siege tanks unsieged. And yes, for those of you over in, like, the lower end of the ladder, siege tanks can be used unsieged, and they're actually really good. Their single target damage is higher than when they're sieged up, although obviously they don't deal splash damage, but I guess if it is, you know, mostly Stalkers and Immortals that you're fighting, the units don't really clump up that much either. Alright, so, once again, Hellbats dealing some damage. I feel like this is a theme for the most part this game so far. And there we go. Okay, so it's not gonna be Tempest. I think that the switch or the change that they've made to Thors, and I don't really know because we haven't really seen it too much, but I think that the thing they've changed to Thors with giving them 1 additional anti-air range, I think that may very well now make Tempest not the greatest choice here, which is the reason why ShoWTimE is making the call to go towards those carriers instead. Now, carriers also benefit hugely from flyer weapon upgrades. So, since every single... Oh, okay, that scan right there was really nice. I mean, it saw the research right there on the cybernetics core. It also saw a carrier coming up. But since carriers obviously have 8 of those little interceptor ships, all of those little interceptor ships all get +1 damage from those air upgrades. So, they're absolutely huge. Like, you get a ton of additional damage from air weapon upgrades. Really, really nicely done. So what exactly are you going to do, though, if you're the Protoss there? Is it just going to be more Thors? Or the Terran, rather. Is it just going to be more Thors? I guess so. ShoWTimE giving up a lot of this ground army. I think that's fine. Disruptor Carrier. Is that what you're going for? Is that like the ultimate unit composition for Protoss? Disruptor Carrier? Also, let me just point out that this guy has got like 20 gases mining. Okay, not quite, but close to it. And he's still low on gas. Isn't that crazy? Like, that's how expensive this Protoss army is. I kind of want to check out resources lost up to this point. Yeah, would you look at that? Whew. Terran Mech, man, it is so cost efficient. So very cost efficient. A Colossus? That has to be a misclick. Right? What's the Colossus gonna do? Is he gonna do Colossus drops? I would love it, don't get me wrong, but I don't really see what a Colossus would achieve here. We'll see here in just a little bit. Maybe it does something, I don't know. Alright, so entire top left-hand corner of the map right now taken here by the Terran player. He's gonna try and secure this base very close to the natural of the Protoss player as well. Maybe Protoss can like push in from this direction. That might be something we want to watch out for here in a little bit. In the meantime, ShoWTimE though is also now taking the Nexus very, very close to the main base of the Terran player. And you know what? If both players have sort of like drawn like a horizontal line, right, through the center of the map, and the entire top section is taken by Terran, the entire bottom section is taken by the Protoss, and we know how cost-efficient Terran Mech is, I guess this can work out. It's just gonna take a very long time to get it to that point. I don't know, though. We'll have to see how these interceptors are gonna trade as well. Actually, you know what? Liberators could maybe help out with that splash damage, too. I'm not sure. Oh, my God. Yo, this tankiness is insane. Those Liberators are so tanky. Are you seeing this? Most of the interceptors just now fell. Thors attack really quickly too. That's another change they made to the Thor. I'm not entirely sure that that those carriers are going to be that great. So Thors basically, they if I recall correctly, they shoot it twice as fast, but at half damage. Which means that they're really, really strong against little interceptor ships as well. Something that I haven't really seen yet. Even though the patch has been around for like more than a half year at this point. We haven't really seen that kind of move. Okay, so this now turns out to like be a bit of a base trade? Really, is that what this leads into right now? The Terran player is just going to be run around here for a very, very long time. So Protoss like, okay, you know what? I'm just going to go in for the counterattack instead. And since Clem knows that he can't catch up with this Protoss player, he's just going to go in for the base race. Oh my god. Dude. These units suck, man. Did you see how long that one Thor stayed alive against like 20 freaking carriers? Okay, 20 freaking interceptors rather? More than that. Okay, they don't suck. They're pretty good. But seriously, I don't know if they're necessarily the best choice here. New structures are already coming up here in the bottom right-hand corner. All of the factories obviously can fly, so they are evacuating away from the main base. Getting that final armory upgrade actually would be a massive advantage here for ShoWTimE, although he obviously doesn't know that that is not done yet. Alright, main base of the Protoss player absolutely being gunned down. And in the meantime, ShoWTimE is dealing an awful lot of damage right over here as well. The thing is, though, Protoss can continue producing here. So they can obviously warp in. They've got their production spread out. And they have some actual structures where they can make stuff out of. Clem, when he's forced to evacuate his main base, is not able to produce anything. So right now we're seeing 180 supply versus 199. Not because Clem doesn't have the money, but because he hasn't really been able to produce stuff. Because, you know, all of his production, I mean, has to once again get add-ons and all that. Alright, Terran army moving all the way back home. They killed the natural, they killed the main base, and apparently, well, the Nexus is still up there, but they've done a bunch of damage. They're going to be able to go back right now. This is sick. I love this. Look at ShoWTimE's bank. He's got 6,000 minerals in the bank right now. Clem has got barely anything. Right? He's got a little bit of a bank, but he's going to need that to max out once more. He's also supply blocked right now, actually, because the Zealots are still going to town. They have now finally found that upgrade. Oh my god. I think it should finish, right? Nah, that's going to finish. Right? Oh my god. Oh my god! No, it was denied? That's nuts, actually. That's huge. That means all the Liberators and Vikings deal way less damage. I know, I really hammer on upgrades a lot, but man, that's... Okay, Zealot's good unit, man. And this actually is gonna hurt. Clem is gonna need a lot more of these supply depots. Yeah, he's already over-making them, anticipating the loss. In the meantime, though, Protoss, once again, has got all of the interceptor ships apparently ready to go, or at least the majority of them. He's now trying to push into this entrenched Terran position. Man, Thors are good. Thors might be a little bit too good, man. Like, Thors seem to kill everything late game. I guess that's what they're supposed to do, right? But they're good against Ultras, they're good against Brute Lords, they're even good against Swarm Host, right? Because the little Locusts also just simply get shot out of the sky by the Thors. And apparently the same can be said right here for Interceptors and then also Tempests. Very interesting. Here's the next upgrade as well. That's air weapons level 3 there. He's now finally going to be able to go for the air weapon armor upgrades. Or air weapon armor upgrades. The air armor upgrades. Actually would have loved to see double cybernetics core. That would have been sick. Either way, yeah. ShoWTimE is now dealing with Terran Mech in the same way that usually Zerg players deal with Terran Mech. And that is by outrunning the Terran player. Terran Mech is really, really slow and sluggish. And while it's super hard to actually kill the main army, you can run them around for a very long time and then just kill stuff. Eventually, the bases that Terran has will mine out. Building armor just now got denied as well. Not the most important upgrade in the game, but it's something, especially when Terran is starting to hunt, or Protoss is starting to hunt down all of the Terran structures. Yeah, look at that. ShoWTimE right now, it's almost like he didn't know exactly how those engagements would go either. Right? Like the way that he approached this fight over here was kind of like him. I don't know what happens here either, but I guess we'll give it a try. And then he's like, okay, well, turns out I can't fight carriers against Thors. I can just run them around like a fool instead. Right? I don't really know exactly how often ShoWTimE has been in this scenario, but it feels like a mistake to fight this Terran army. I guess unless you get like some really big disruptor hits off. Now that's, I guess, what the Tempests are here for. The Tempests basically zone up so the disruptors can't get too close. Yeah, they just get killed. Yeah, I don't like that. At the same time, apparently a bunch of the probes also end up going down. Where's all the probes going down? Huh? Is there like a Liberator somewhere? I guess there was. There may have been. Alright, anyways. The couple of Zealots and then also that Stalker apparently have killed the first 3 bases of the Terran player. This is so sick. Protoss, though, still has a lot. I was really assuming here that Terran was going to be in a superior position once they managed to get maxed out. But ShoWTimE is playing this out really, really cleverly. Forcing all of this production to move on over to this section of the map also forces the Terran player to like funnel all of those Thors in between the structures, and it takes them a long time to go anywhere. He's even target firing right now with carriers. Not something we see all too often. One thing to keep in mind though, and this is something that comes into play as the banks start depleting. I mean, all of these bases are going to run out here eventually. Interceptors cost money. So interceptors are not free. They're different from like other shots. Like, you know, obviously siege tanks don't need to pay for every shot. Interceptors though cost, if I'm not mistaken, 15 minerals each. So 15. 1-5. So yeah, like once money runs out, I mean, this is quite a lot of money caught up in these. That is 9 of those carriers right now with 8 ships each. That's 72. 72 times 15. I'm not going to do the entire bit of math. You can do a little bit yourself, okay? This is an interactive cast now. But that's like 1,000 minerals worth of interceptors, right? So if you lose them every time, it adds up. Did I do that right? I think I did. A couple of Tempests now added into the mix as well. So I think what the Tempests are trying to do is they're trying to target fire down the Liberators, so then the Disruptors can actually get in their hits. Oh yeah, I love this. Okay, a couple of Oracles added on as well. So Oracles have a spell called Revelation, and it allows the Tempests to always shoot at their maximum distance. So Tempests can shoot away further than they can see. And I don't think you're really going to be able to get an Interceptor in here, because there's, well, missile turrets and detection everywhere. Oh, Disruptor Balls, once again, try to move forward. Double Planetary Fortress defense. And I think that this first Planetary Fortress may very well fall. There it does. Man, ShoWTimE is target firing down with carriers. That's not something we usually see carriers do, man. I was told Protoss was F2A move, but that's, huh? I'm so confused. Okay, that's a joke. That's a joke. Protoss is probably the furthest from like F2A move, which is kind of hilarious. I don't know how Protoss has become the F2A move race, when really it's like Zork players, right? That just F2A move most of the time. At least, you know, not in the late game, but in like early and mid game. Yeah, quite a bit. Terran also, mostly F2A move here. Protoss though, casually, or cautiously rather, trying to micro all of the things. Okay, those Disruptors, beautiful! Oh, well, never mind. Couple of Hellbats. Managed to get some damage in. Did I just see Storms? Did ShoWTimE just storm his own base? Well, you know what? Apparently he doesn't want those probes anymore. Yeah, the thing is, there's only a handful of mineral patches anyway. You don't need these probes. Just get rid of them. You can fill up that supply with additional army units instead. Alright, so Clem once again maxed out. Can Clem win the base race? So, if ShoWTimE just constantly denies the fights, right? Can Clem really win the base race? I don't see it happening. Assuming ShoWTimE doesn't take the head-on engagement, I'm pretty sure he can always outmaneuver this Terran army. And if he does so, I mean, Protoss is just gonna kill all of the structures here before Terran can actually kill all of the Protoss structures. So, the original win condition for StarCraft 2, and we don't see it all too often, is killing all of your opponent's structures. That's essentially what we're getting to right here. Once again, small hit squad right here of Zealots, all the way up north, denying another base. This is cool, man. I'm casting this with a smile. I don't know if you can hear. This is the level of StarCraft I want to see. Games that, you know, even though the game has been around for like more than 10 years right now, new strategies are still being discovered. Or I guess not new strategies, but like, you know, you get what I'm trying to say, right? This is not a kind of strategy that we saw people like. Ooh, that's a lot of Tempest. Not a type of strategy that we saw players execute for a very long time. And, you know, obviously maps and patches change the way that these kind of games play out. Careful now, High Templar. Don't go through those circles. Okay. Okay, a couple of siege tanks. actually, that was just one siege tank. Taking damage from the Purification Nova. ShoWTimE completely not living up to his name of Demauer, by the way. He's not living up to the wall at all. This guy is playing very aggressively here for a long time. And you know what? This Terran army, I mean, he's got a nice bank. These bases are running low, though. Oh. Do you think they're gonna clash? I really feel like making a fight happen is not what you want here. It's not in your best interest here as Protoss. He's just trying to, like, pick units off. Oh my god, this is the worst feeling if you're a Terran player, though. When the probes come in. He doesn't need the probes anymore. There's not enough mineral patches. Oh my god. Probes are killing a missile turret. The ultimate 35-minute BM. Now, if Terran gets a straight-up fight, though, I still feel like this is going to be a pretty good moment. Oof. I feel like a lot of us would get greedy here with these disruptor hits, though. Right? Trying to just simply land the disruptors right there on all of these Thors. Yeah, you know what? I feel like the Skytle's army here played this cautiously. It is getting insane value. So remember the resources lost earlier? It's catching up very quickly. That's not to say that Terran can't win this, but I feel like most of the time when Terran wins this right now, it's because, or well, at least like this is the first time I'm seeing it, right? But I can imagine it's mostly because Protoss makes a mistake. Because Protoss is never gonna take the fight. He's adding on more Tempest right now. I guess the win condition for Terran, though, is to try and take cost-efficient trades here and then hopefully, you know, have the Protoss player run out of money. Maybe that's actually what ShoWTimE is anticipating here as well, which is why he's switching out. Ooh, once again, huge disruptor hits there. But maybe that's why he's switching out of carriers into Tempest instead. Much more aggressive move out right here for Clem. A couple of the SCVs get killed. Storm now also used whenever Protoss, or whenever Terran decides to get a little bit too aggressive. Now, obviously, Tempest, you don't have to pay for the shots, right? Whereas for carriers, I mean, yeah, you run out pretty quick. Okay. Additional disruptors are being added on right here. It's gonna be full Thor Liberator. Disruptors! Oh, that one's dead. That one Thor at the front is dead. And every single time Terran moves forward, Protoss moves back. He waits for the disruptor hits to come off. Waits until the Terran repositions, gets a couple of shots in with the Liberators, and softens up this Terran army ever so slightly. Tries to get some disruptor hits. Terran moves forward, then he backs off. Well, right now, though, Clem is starting to get a little bit desperate here. ShoWTimE does take a long time, by the way, to reproduce. Look at the resources right now. Yeah, he starts up a bunch of Tempest. That's a lot of supply right there, caught on the production tab. You know what? Ooh, ShoWTimE was not producing there for quite some time. Terran is now pushing him all the way back. Clem does also have a lot of supply caught up in the production, but, I mean, the Thors are almost out. ShoWTimE needs a little bit of time right now. Zealots here, still patiently waiting for their time to shine. I think they actually could be shining right now. I think this could be their moment. I think ShoWTimE wants to take a head-on fight here anyway. I think that's what he's looking for. I don't know if it's the correct move. I feel like base racing him is better. You could even plant down a Nexus instead of your opponent's base, I guess. Oh, huge disruptor hit! That was massive. That was like 4 Thors going down to a couple of disruptors. Man, the patience here of ShoWTimE. I mean, it's kind of what he's known for, right? But in the meantime, the Zealots indeed. Oh my god, they managed to get a kill on a couple of those, well, I guess cancels there, but on a couple of those units. A couple of those structures, rather. Command centers, though, do start up eventually. Not sure exactly what he wants to do with those. I guess stop mining with SCVs entirely and just start mining with mules so you can make a bigger army. Clem right now, completely out of gas, by the way. Look at that. He's got 0 gas. Well, 20, but that's basically 0. That means that every single Thor right now that falls, every single Liberator that takes damage, I mean, you're not going to be able to repair it. Are you really going to make Hellions against the Skytle's army? Oh my god. god, the splash damage here of the Protoss is insane, man. Softening up so much of this army. Still though, Terran does manage to get on top of the Nexus right now. This is one of the last mining bases. Actually, I think it is the last mining base. Yeah, and it's basically mined out, so I don't think we're gonna see a Nexus over here anymore either. I mean, you're not really gonna pay for that Nexus with the resources you get, so it's not really worth it. You kind of do. There's still like 500 minerals in some of these, but you get what I'm trying to say. Terran, however, can lift the command center there. With the killing of that base, apparently, though, yeah, Clem decides to go home. I don't know. I don't know if that was necessarily the ending I was hoping for. I was ready for an insane final battle here. But yeah, Clem, I mean, he's broke. He's only got minerals. He's got nearly 4,000 minerals in the bank. But at that point, I mean, you can't really switch over towards Marines. Marines against fully upgraded Skytos, yeah, it's not going to do anything, right? They're just going to tickle away at those carriers, at those interceptors. I mean, your other option is making Hellions. Well, Hellions, last time I checked, not particularly good at shooting up either. So, ShoWTimE shows us how to approach playing against a maxed out Terran Mech player. Turns out it takes a lot of patience, takes a long time as well. But apparently the Disruptor Tempest Carrier High Templar army with Zealots and Stalkers for backstabbing your opponent's bases. Apparently that is the way to go. So awesome game here by these two players. I hope you enjoyed watching it. If you did, hit that like button down below. If you want to see more, hit that subscribe button as well so you get notified as soon as future videos go live. But for now, I want to thank you for watching. Have an awesome day. Don't forget to smile, and I'll see you once again in the next one.